The purpose of this video is to explain the guidelines for the final exam. However, before getting started, there are a few preliminary points that I need to make about this video. The video you are about to watch was originally made for a section of this class that ran in the fall semester of 2022. For that reason, if you are not taking this class in the fall of 2022, then the specific exam dates I discuss in this video will not match the exam dates for your particular section of the class. Furthermore, the possible essay questions you see on the study guide in this video may be slightly different from the possible essay questions that are on the actual study guide for your class and section. However, the general points about the format of the exams, where to find the study guides for the exams, how to take the exams, and how I will grade your exams remain the same and all still apply to your class. To find the precise exam dates for your section and the exact essay questions you will need to be prepared for, please consult the Moodle page for our class, the syllabus, the weekly instruction letters, or the final exam study guide that is posted online. In addition, if there's anything in this video you find confusing or need clarification on, then please do not hesitate to contact me via email. In this class, there is one exam, the final exam which you will take during the last week of the class. The purpose of this exam is to test your comprehension of the major concepts and arguments that we have covered in this course. And unlike the response papers, the main purpose of this assignment is not for you to construct an argument or critique an author's reasoning, although it is possible that certain parts of the essays may ask you to offer criticism or evaluate some philosophical claim. Instead, the primary purpose of this assignment is to test your comprehension and understanding of the major arguments given by the philosophers who we will study in this class. It is very important that you know that there is a study guide for this exam, and that is because it is highly unlikely that you would be able to perform well on the exam if you did not use the study guide. So, knowing where to locate the study guide is vital for your success. And there are two places you can go to find the final exam study guide. First, you can find it in the Course Information and Resources area of Moodle. Second, you can also find the final exam study guide in the area of the course that is devoted to the final exam. In this case, that would be Week 8 of the class. So, we can find the study guide in the Week 8 area of our course Moodle page. Now that we know how to find the study guide, let's discuss how the final exam works, beginning with the format of the exam. The final exam will consist of 2 long-form essay questions. These essays will require you to respond to a specific essay prompt, and as we will discuss, you will be required to respond to each point asked about in that prompt. However, you should not be surprised by any of the essay prompts that you might see on the exam. This is because all the possible essay prompts for the exam are listed on the subsequent pages of the document that is currently seen on your screen. It is very important for you to know from the outset that you will not choose which 2 essays from this list found on the study guide that you will respond to on the exam. Instead, the essays will be chosen at random by the program that administers the exam to you. It is important for you to know that the possible essays that you see on the study guide are exactly word for word what you would see on the final exam. For example, if the exam program randomly selected essay prompt 1 for you, then what you would be presented with and what you would be required to respond to would be precisely what you currently see on your screen. As I have already mentioned in a previous video, the study guide also tells us that you will have a period of 5 days during the final week of the class to take the final exam. And if we look at the course schedule, then we can see that the exam program will open up on Monday morning at 8 and remain open until midnight that week Friday. Once that 5-day period has passed, you will no longer be permitted to submit the exam. However, although you must meet the final deadline, it will be up to you when within that period of 5 days that you decide to take the final exam. In the next section of this video, we will take a closer look at the mechanics of how the exam program works and what is involved with actually taking the exam. As mentioned previously, you will take the exam through a program on Moodle. To find where you will take the exam, we need to go to the Week 8 area of the class. When you are ready to take the exam, then you would simply click on the link that you see here. However, it is important that I stress what it means to be ready to take the exam. In addition to knowing about the study guide and that there is a study guide, there is probably no piece of information about the exam that is more important than what I'm about to tell you. When you open the exam program on Moodle, you will only have 20 minutes to submit your answers to the exam. Now, if you have a look at the study guide, then you will notice that the essay prompts can be rather complex and involved. And so you might think to yourself, it seems unreasonable for us to be required to write 2 long essays in only 20 minutes. And of course, you would be right about this. It certainly would be unreasonable for me to expect you to complete both essays in that short amount of time. This is why you should not, I repeat, you should not attempt to write your essays in the 20-minute time period that occurs after you open the exam program. The reason you are only given 20 minutes is so that you are forced to have your essay responses to all the possible essay questions written out in advance. The idea here is that once you open the exam program, all the real work has already been completed. All that will be left for you to do is upload the essays that you have already written. So, just to be very clear, in this case there are 6 possible essay questions on the exam study guide. That means that before you click the link to begin the exam, you should have prepared 6 separate documents in either .doc or PDF format, and each of those documents should have a response to one of the possible essay questions. Then, once you see the questions that the program has selected for you, all that remains is for you to upload your essays. The whole process should really not take any longer than a few minutes. The reason I have emphasized this point at length is because it is crucial to your success on the exam. The likelihood of you scoring well on the exam if you do not have your essays completed and ready to submit in advance is exceedingly low. And because the exam is worth 25% of your overall grade, this is a mistake you will surely want to avoid. In order to give you a better sense of how the exam program functions, I am now going to give you a demonstration of the process. Once you are ready to begin the exam, which again means you already have your responses to all the possible essay questions completed, then simply click on the link for the final exam. Then, click on Attempt Quiz Now and confirm that you want to begin. In this instance, the first essay the program has presented me with is the question dealing with Aristotle on happiness and the function argument. So at this point, I simply need to upload my response to this particular essay prompt. To upload my essay in response to this question, I would simply scroll down to where the program allows me to attach files. Then, I would go to the next page and do the same thing for the second question. At this point, if you wish, you can click on the documents you have submitted to check that you have attached the correct file. And this is something I would recommend doing, since if you do accidentally submit the incorrect file, then this would detract significantly from your grade. Then, once you are satisfied with the files you have submitted, you can click Finish Attempt. Overall, the process of submitting your essays is pretty straightforward. The two things that I will once again stress to you are that you need to make sure you have all your essays written before beginning the exam, and also that it is a very good idea to go back and check to make sure you have attached the correct documents before finalizing your exam. Now that we have seen what is involved with the mechanics of taking the exam, I will now begin to discuss how your exam responses will be graded. Each of your essays will be given a score out of 100, and so your score on the entire exam will be a score out of 200. However, in order to delve further into how your essays will be graded, we first need to discuss the basic requirements. That is, the bare minimum of what I will look for when evaluating your work. And in order to explain this, we will need to cover how you should read and respond to the exam essay prompts, which we will do shortly. Then, in the next section, I will discuss the more substantial criteria that I have for grading your exam essays. The first thing that you need to make sure you do when you write your essays is to answer every point that is asked about in the essay prompt. As we will see, each essay prompt has many different parts, and there will be some specific amount of points attached to each part of the essay. So, if you do not answer some part of the question, then you will not get any of the points associated with it. Consequently, it would be impossible for you to get full credit for that essay. Another thing you will notice when you look at the essay prompts is that each question has a title. But this is not something that you need to provide an answer to. This simply informs you of the topic of the essay and tells you what ties all of its parts together into one thematic whole. When I grade your essays, the points you receive will not be an all or nothing matter. You can, and very likely will, receive partial credit. This would occur in the case that your response is either partially incorrect, or if the essay that you submit was incomplete in some way. To better understand these points, let's take a look at one of the exam essay prompts from the study guide. The title of this question tells us that it deals with Aristotle's conception of happiness as well as Aristotle's function argument. However, recall that you do not need to provide an answer to the title of the question. This again is just there to tell you the broad topic of the essay. One thing you will notice about this question is that it is divided into two parts, Part 1 and Part 2. Sometimes students will ask whether they are supposed to choose which of these two parts to respond to. And the answer to this question is a definitive no. You need to provide a complete response to Part 1 and to Part 2. At no point should you choose which portion of the question to answer. The reason the question is divided into two parts is just for the sake of organization. It is not because you are only supposed to answer half of the question. So, you need to make sure you respond to every point that is asked about in the prompt. Now, let's take a closer look at what is included within the essay prompts. The first sentence of Part 1 tells us that in this portion of the essay, you will be required to explain Aristotle's conception of happiness. Following this, the question tells you precisely what points you need to address in order to provide a complete explanation of that concept. This prompt tells you that you need to explain what Aristotle means when he claims that happiness is the final end, what Aristotle means when he says that happiness is the end that is most worthy of choice, complete without qualification, and self-sufficient, and then finally, why Aristotle believes that neither the life of pleasure nor the life of politics constitute human happiness. You will also notice that the essay questions sometimes contain a passage from the text and then ask you to reference that passage in your answer. This essay asks you to discuss whether you agree or disagree with the position that Aristotle expresses in the selected passage. When that is present in a question, you will want to make sure you demonstrate that you understand the specific points being made in that passage, and make sure that the ideas being expressed in that passage inform your essay response. Again, when grading your work, I will have a certain number of points in mind for each component of the essay. So you really need to make sure that you work systematically and respond to everything that is asked about in the essay. One common question that students often have is how long your responses to the essay should be. It is difficult to answer this question in the abstract because it really is highly dependent upon the particular essay in question. The length of each essay will depend upon what exactly that essay is asking you to write about. For this reason, there is no strict requirement for how long your essays must be or for how many words your essay must contain. This is one way in which the exam essays differ from the response papers where there is a specific word length requirement. What is required is that you give a detailed explanation of each point in the essay prompt, and consequently, the amount of words it takes to do that will vary depending upon the circumstance. However, to give you some more specific guidance about what your exam essay should look like, and to give you an idea of how long you can expect an exam essay to be, I have posted an example of an exam essay response to Moodle. To find this, go to the Week 8 area of the course page where the exam is located. Then scroll down to the document entitled Sample Exam Essay. What you see here is an example of an essay question that takes the kind of format that you will find on the exam. If you scroll down, then you will find an example of an excellent response to this essay prompt. It is important to understand the purpose of this document so that you can understand how to use it properly. The essay on this document is not one that you could see on the exam, and the material it covers is not anything that we will be discussing in this class. It is an essay question I have used previously in a different course. As such, you do not need to worry about being able to understand the points that are made in this essay prompt or the essay itself. However, there are two things that you can take away from this example. First, it provides a good example of what a detailed essay response looks like. If you go through the essay and compare it to the prompt, you can see that the essay proceeds systematically and responds to each point that is asked about in the prompt. There's nothing that is asked about in the prompt that is left out of the essay. Second, while again there is no strict word requirement, this document will give you an idea of how long a successful essay response is likely to be. Or perhaps a better way of putting it would be to say that this document shows you the level of depth and detail that is required to get a top grade on the exam essays. Now that we understand how to approach the exam essay questions and how to respond to the essay prompts, we will end this video with a discussion of how your essays will be graded. When grading your essays, I will have two primary criteria in mind. First, how accurately do you explain each point in the prompt? Are the claims you make about the ideas and arguments being asked about correct? Or does your response show evidence of some misunderstandings or confusions? Of course, as you should expect, I will be looking to see that you have an accurate understanding of the material. However, there is also a further standard beyond the truth of the claims you make in your essays. This is because what you write could be true as far as it goes, but it just might not go far enough. It might be incomplete. It might leave out certain points that are important for understanding what has been asked. So I will also evaluate you on whether you've responded to the questions asked about in a detailed way that doesn't neglect any important details. And here what I'm really looking for is evidence of your deep understanding of the material and close understanding of the text. I do not just want to see that you have regurgitated phrases from the lectures. I want to see real evidence that you know what those ideas mean, that you understand the concepts, and that you can explain them in a complete and thorough fashion. I also want to say a few words about my grading standards for the exam. Because of the online format of this class, when you are preparing your essays, you will have a plethora of resources available to you that you would not have if you were writing these same essays in an in-person physical classroom. That is, you will have access to the readings, lesson outlines, and the lecture videos. In addition, you will also have much more time at your disposal. You will not be under the normal time constraints you would be facing were you being expected to write these essays during, for example, a 75-minute class period. In fact, because all the essay prompts are currently available to you right now, you have the opportunity to complete many of the essays before the exam week even gets here. And I would highly recommend that you take advantage of this opportunity. If I were a student thinking about how to approach this class and how to approach the exams in particular, then after each week of the class I would have a look at the study guide to see if any questions were covered in the previous week's material. If one of the essays was covered, then I would recommend completing a rough draft of that as soon as possible when the material is most fresh in your mind. If you do this, then the week of the exam, a time when you will also likely have assignments due for other classes, will be much less stressful for you. All you would need to do during exam week is read back over your essays, make revisions, and expand upon certain points before making your final submission. But the majority of your work would already be done. In addition, doing this would also help you identify any areas of confusion you might have and contact me for help with shoring up any gaps in your understanding of the material. For all these reasons, because you have such a long time frame to complete the exam essays, and because you have so many resources at your disposal while you are writing your essays, my expectations for the quality of your work are higher than if you were completing a similar exam within the normal constraints of a face-to-face physical classroom environment. So you will want to strive to ensure that the quality of your work matches the advantages afforded to you by the online format of the class. I will want to see that you have a strong grasp of the texts we have read, as well as the philosophical issues covered in those texts. The best essay responses will go beyond just giving a bare bones response to each point, or just giving a single sentence that gestures toward the right answer. Rather, the best essays will show that the student has thought deeply and critically about what has been asked in the essay. In addition, the best essays will show evidence that the student has taken the time to craft them in an organized fashion in which all the points are clearly explained. And as mentioned earlier, I want to see your own understanding of the material come through. Just like with the response papers, it will not be sufficient to merely regurgitate material from the lectures and readings. I want to see that you can explain the required points in your own way, with your own examples, in a way that shows your genuine comprehension of the material. I want to reiterate that I do not say any of this to discourage or intimidate you. I just want you to have an accurate conception of my thought process about grading your exams. However, while I do strive to hold students to a high standard, I also strive to support students in their efforts to reach that standard. So if you were ever confused about the material for the exam or really any other assignment, then please do not hesitate to contact me so that I can assist you in learning the material and help you produce the best work that you can. Finally, there are a few points I need to address regarding plagiarism and the use of external sources. My expectation for the exam is that your essays will be a product of your own ideas and understanding. This means, of course, that your essays should be your own work and not taken, for instance, from the work of one of your classmates. In addition, the material for your essays should not be taken from any external sources. Your essays should, again, be a reflection of your own understanding of the material, which is informed by the readings and the lectures. Plagiarism is something I take seriously, and I believe that defending against it is essential for protecting the integrity of the assignment and the integrity of the class as a whole. So you should know in advance that plagiarism is something I look for when grading your assignments. I will check to see if there is material directly taken from some internet source, or if there is evidence of material being copied from another student in the class. And any case in which plagiarism is found will result in the student receiving a 0 on the exam. My hope now is that you have a better understanding of the final exam that will enable you to prepare for the assignment confidently going forward. However, if you still have any remaining questions about the final exam, then please do not hesitate to contact me. In addition, please know that I am here to help you prepare for the exam in whatever way will help you to produce your best work on the assignment.